Hi everyone, welcome back to SwitchUp and to another review. Today we're going to have a look at Disney's Illusion Island, which releases on the Switch this week.
Yep, this describes itself as an accessible Metroidvania, so it'll be interesting to see exactly how that plays out, and we'll go through the game and tell you exactly what you need to know.
This one is actually coming from a studio called Delala Studios, which is based just down the road from where we are right this second. A big thanks to those guys for providing the review copy.
So does it live up to the Illusion name, or does it take the mick?
Let's find out. The storyline features the Fabulous Four, Mickey, Minnie, Donald, and who's that other one?
Goofy.
Oh yeah, him. And they're on the mysterious island, which is Monolith, where 3 magical tomes have gone missing. These are powerful books that are needed to protect the island, and our heroes have to set off and find them.
You'll meet a host of characters along the way to guide you on your quest, and a few not so helpful ones to be fair, as you attempt to find the books and restore peace.
There are a few familiar faces from the universe, but the way those cutscenes are delivered is masterful.
It has a real quality feel to it for sure. Doesn't use a classic style so much in terms of the art style, but the way it's delivered certainly has that feel to it.
Now, as far as gameplay goes, this does describe itself as an accessible Metroidvania, which I have to be honest, panicked me when I first heard it.
Yeah, without giving too much away in terms of the review, that term doesn't do the game justice. It plays more like almost like a parkour platformer, doesn't it? The Metroidvania aspect is certainly there in terms of having to find new areas, earn new skills that will allow you to access areas you couldn't get to before, all those classic tropes, but it's not accessible in the way that the title alludes to.
No, a title like that makes me think they're going to water everything down and make it stupidly easy. What this does is it makes survival relatively easy in terms of being able to respawn at checkpoints quite frequently. Also, you can tailor the difficulty by choosing the number of hearts you have or make yourself entirely invincible. But the actual platform in itself, which is the focus of the game, this isn't about combat, is incredibly fluid and well designed.
Absolutely. And just on that, there is no combat in the popular sense. You don't fight any enemies, but there are certainly enemies there that need to be avoided. So again, it makes it sound like it's an easy game, but it isn't. It's just about how you play it. As you hopefully see from the footage at least, you start to get into a real rhythm to it, and the characters move in, we described it as floaty to begin with, but it's not so much floaty, it's quite graceful, isn't it? They have a nice style to them that when you get into the rhythm of it, you move with such grace that it really does feel quite, I don't know, cathartic.
It's an unusual one to describe. Now, you do have free reign to go wherever you want. What it does well is in guiding the player to the next objective without always the need to be looking at that map for the next flag.
Yeah, the levels are designed, or the areas are designed in such a way that it's fairly intuitive as to where you'll need to go next, although you will have to stop sometimes obviously and check your map, but it does just have a design to it that allows for you to keep moving.
Now, if one of you does perish, then the main player will control the camera and you'll see a small letter floating after them. When you reach a checkpoint, which is essentially a mailbox, they will reveal themselves out of that.
Absolutely. Just on that, there are some really nice animations on that front, things that aren't necessary but really do add some charm, things that you've seen before, like, you know, teetering on the edge of a platform, but also things like when you're given a power up. So the first one you get, I think, is the double jump, and you're all given a different item to represent the fact that you can now double jump. Totally unnecessary, but really, you know, a nice quality addition to the game.
There are times when it does feel a little formulaic. For example, the first quest you have to do is finding 3 keys to unlock a door, but then that's repeated a number of times.
Yeah, it's almost by rote in terms of following that Metroidvania formula, if you like. But I think it depends on your mindset when you play this. If you're going in wanting a Metroidvania, there are better ones. 100%. If you want something that's quite fluid in terms of how it moves, very heavy emphasis on platforming, but still has Metroidvania elements, this ticks those boxes.
This is all about the platforming for me. Really does emphasize that, heightens it, and it makes you play it better as far as that element goes, and then it gets progressively more difficult, and the introduction of those Metroidvania skills and abilities just improves your fluidity.
It does indeed. I would say, not that I've experienced it, but when we played both of a similar skill level, the flow was great. If I'd played with someone that was either better than me or not as good as me, it might have started to drag the experience back a little bit, and maybe then single player is the way to go.
And again, the accessibility there would be that you could have those 2 people invincible, and if they got off the screen, it would just float them after you.
Yes, yeah, like the Rayman games or what have you.
And that was one of the big inspirations for this one, Rayman Legends.
There you go, I didn't know that. I tell you what it does remind me of, as bizarre as this is going to sound, it reminded me of when you really get into a good rhythm in Assassin's Creed and you're climbing up on rooftops.
Exactly the same.
Yeah, and jumping off. Nothing like that, don't get me wrong, but just that free flow feeling is conveyed here very well.
Yeah, if you could bottle the feeling that you get doing the parkour in Assassin's Creed and combine it with Mirror's Edge, that flow of gameplay, that is strangely the Metroidvania experience they've created.
Yeah, and it's not what you'd expect at all when you see the trailer.
Exactly right. Now, there are a number of boss fights in here as well. They use the platforming, so again, you're not going to be directly in combat, firing abilities, things like that. You'll be using the level, as you can see on the screen, and your platforming skills like the wall jump and other double jumps to hit certain areas and gradually defeat the boss in that way. I did find it strange that for a game that speaks about accessibility, the mapping system wasn't the most accessible, particularly when it comes to things like locating specific areas and the fast travel system that moves you between two predefined points.
Yeah, it's not a fast travel system in the popular sense that you can choose where you want to go next. It was a little clunky in that respect, and something that definitely could be improved. Probably the weakest aspect of the game, to be perfectly honest. Something I did like though that I don't think we really covered was the collectibles that are here. So obviously you have collectibles in the sense of classic things from Disney's past, you know, like postcards of this, or but you also have just the bog standard like orbs that you collect as you go along. And if you're a bit of a completionist, you'll feel compelled to enhance your platforming skills to grab every last one. But it's not just about patting yourself on the back for getting them, because you can then use those to buy things such as extra hearts, which is a really nice use of those, I thought.
Yeah, and if you are a completionist, there are secrets and hidden areas all over the place, and these are quite well signposted to the observant player. There are also areas that you can go back through, as you'd expect, that will only be unlockable once you've got the prerequisite skill.
So in terms of the gameplay, if you want a pure Metroidvania, you'll find others out there that suit that need better. If you want a nice hybrid of that and some high action platforming, this is a good one to pick up.
Visually, straight off the bat, you're seeing what we are, and it is an incredibly well presented game. There are many smaller animations. Particular note would be in the side characters that you meet. Often it will transition into a full animation style cutscene, and you can't see that change, which is impressive in and of itself.
The style of the characters themselves, whilst not exactly to my tastes, it's not quite the 1930s style I was hoping for. Once the game is running, it's so consistent that you'll soon forget any predefined idea you had of what it should look like and just enjoy what you've got in front of you.
It's a world that's full of life as well. There'll be small characters in the scenery. It dynamically changes as you move from one area to the next, so you'll see the lighting will change. They've managed to make very unique feeling areas without those huge shifts that you often see.
Yeah, that's a good point actually. It's something I didn't really think about before, but it's not necessarily about scenery change. It's more about colour gradients and things like that, but they're so smooth in the way that they change, you feel like you've entered a new area.
And the same can be said for the fully orchestrated score. The music is just outstanding. Take a listen for yourself. There is some voice acting, not always. A lot of it is just text to read, but those cutscenes that you mentioned, Mark, earlier, certainly are voice acted. And again, the characters sound exactly as you would expect them to sound. As for performance, well, you can see the frame rate on the screen right now. It's silky smooth. I didn't notice any stutters or drops. And although it does use an animation style which looks slightly lower frame rate, it's very consistent.
Yeah, it has that kind of 24 frames feel to it, which I'm assuming was intentional. So Disney Illusion Island will cost you £34.99, or your regional equivalent, which will be on the screen right now. And I would say you're looking at about 10 to 15 hours in terms of length, depending on your skill level.
It's a 6.7GB download, and it has to be said that it does have a physical that can be found for a little cheaper than that. Although I think their starting price maybe should have been around £25 to £30.
I would say so. I think just because the gameplay is a little bit of a unique taste in terms of exactly what it does, perhaps going with a slightly lower price point would have been the way to go. But that's not to make any disparaging marks about the quality of the game or certainly the presentation, which is top notch.
That's a Doomsday.
Disney's Illusion Island was significantly more enjoyable than I thought it would be. It's a really fun game to play solo or with a friend or group of you in 1 to 4 player co-op, and overall it got a SwitchUp score of 85%.
So there you have it. Yeah, very enjoyable game. Nice, pleasant surprise this one. Don't forget, if you are looking for eShop credit to pick this game up, or any other for that matter of course, you can get your eShop cards via our website, switchup.gg. You'll get yourself 5% of the price back in cash back that you can use against a future purchase, and for a few more days you'll get 5% straight discount if you use the code SwitchUp.
Brilliant. Thanks to all of you that enjoyed the content, and as always, a big thanks to our Patreons and our members, and for all things Switch all the time, keep it Switch up.
Good stuff. Take care and happy gaming.